And we're back on the Fowler Show. I got to tell you, folks, you guys know I talk about it. I over-talk about it. I talk about it a little bit too much. That's okay. You can yell at me later. It's an important issue. It's the student loan debt crisis. Nothing new here on the Fowler Show. We are who you thought we were. But we are joined today by the one and only, the activist, the playwright, good friend of the Fowler Show, has been on a couple of times, Aaron Calafato, co-founder of the Student Debt Crisis. Also, and we're going to talk about it a little bit, but the hashtag #OutWithYourDebt. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a while, but it's good to have you back here on Fowler Nation. I think our Fowler Nation folks love you, just like we do here.
Well, I got to tell you, it's Student Debt Crisis, honestly, without just, I know we both appreciate what each other is doing, but honestly, the work that you do, the kind of conversations that you have are much needed, and also the fact that you came out and had that video. Not a lot of people who are hosting radio shows or involved, in the media or have lives and careers. I know it's a tough thing to fit that in. We really appreciated that. That helped set a precedent. And I noticed after years we had a few other videos start streaming in. I think it helped people kind of give them permission a little bit to come out and talk about this issue. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for those kind words. I got to tell you, gratefulness is the greatest prayer. So I'm grateful that, sometimes I think when you do the work that both you and I do, sometimes you get so caught up in doing the work that you don't take the time out to realize that your job is to be a voice for people that have voices. And if we can get more people to tell their story, Aaron, which is why we did what we did here at the Fowler Show, that means that we're doing that. We're giving people, we're informing people, empowering people, and helping them get their voice back. And this movement doesn't work, and I think you know this as well as I do, Aaron, if people don't add their voice to the choir demanding change.
That's true. I mean, that's one of the things that's been it's been challenging, but at the same time, I'm right on point with that. The idea is we really hope, and we have a few more weeks left. But some of these videos that have already came in, it's just unbelievable to see people's stories. And you don't have to be a radio host. You don't have to be a solo performer, really. And actually, and I'm sure you'll agree that sometimes I think the most powerful stories are those of people who just, kind of turn on the camera and say, listen, this is something I really want to talk about, and it's something I haven't really told anybody about. And when you see the vulnerability and you see just sort of the everyday, I think what it does is it humanizes it. It humanizes the issue, and it kind of gives different faces and colors and socioeconomic backgrounds of everybody who's dealing with this, and kind of gives context to what we're hoping to show is that this is a larger sort of exploitation of the American student and a larger issue that's really inclusive of Americans.
And I think beyond that, Aaron, it takes the power back. I think what we've allowed to happen to the millennial generation and those people that are involved in the student loan, the people that are part or are in the student loan debt crisis, is we've allowed for those, whether it be on the left or on the right, and more so on the right than the left, but who have sort of painted this picture that all of those of us who have student loan debt are lazy, sleeping at home in our old beds because we don't want to work and we don't want to get to the American dream and we're impatient, and those things just aren't true.
Right. It's not. I mean, I think, as you point out, I think here's what I know is true. That the majority of people that I've talked to, whether it's through my organization or whether it's when we do, I do panel discussions after every performance that I have, and one of the reasons why is, and I don't usually sit on them. I usually bring in guests from the community and political leaders and people and tailor it to that particular community or university. And the number one thing that I hear is most people who have this debt, as small or as big as some people have it, say, I want to pay this off. I mean, most people have a sense that if I borrowed something, in theory, that I want to pay it back. But what happens is when we get to a point when the game is sort of rigged, right? Like when you are lent money and you don't know so much about compound interest, and you realize, wait a second, I mean, if I've made a payment, every month for the last 5 years, how come my loan is almost doubled? Or you don't realize that when you're halfway into your year or your second year in college, that tuition doubles. So you originally went into school, you're halfway through your major, it goes from $11,000 a year to $20,000 a year. So these are the things that I think people are saying, wait a second, this isn't fair. Or you look at for-profit universities, and that's a whole other story about...
Don't get me started, Aaron. Don't get me started today.
Yeah, so you know as well as everybody, I think, and especially your listeners, I think, feel this as well, that most people, the majority of people, have that sense of decency and responsibility, and it is just like many stereotypes that we see in the media about poverty, about student debt, about whatever. Pick it. It's not what you think it is. It really is, average people trying to make it through life and achieve the American dream.
And I got to tell you, this is one of those issues where I get that the president, there's not much you can do with this Republican Congress. I get that. I understand that. I am a big fan of the president. But I just really wish the president would come out with a comprehensive plan to sort of say, listen, I know this is not going to get through Congress, but I'm at least going to put out a plan to fix student loan debt crisis. And, income-based repayment, which is what we've seen this White House constantly sell, the whole idea that if you have federal loans, you can pay a certain amount of them, blase, blase, is just not good enough.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it doesn't match up to this situation. That most people, we've all essentially borrowed to work, and I think that's a strange thing. I say a lot in my play. I talk about being a borrow to work society. That is weird. Higher education or any sort of education should basically be there as a transitional point, a place that will inform you, that you can get knowledge from, and then be a stimulus to the economy, rather than essentially having to make college an entirely economic endeavor. And I was recently on an NPR affiliate talking with John Kerry. He's the Chancellor for the Ohio University System, right? This very kind of big title, and I'm sure he's a really nice guy. But he said to me, "Hey," and I'm based in Ohio, in the Cleveland area. He said, "Hey, listen, college in Ohio is a great deal for students." And well, of course it's not, but because when you really think about value, we know just factually the value isn't there. I mean, if you invest $80,000 into a degree, and a bachelor's degree then yields you $24,000 a year, there's no value in that. But I think it also is like, and when you mentioned the Obama administration, one of the things that's difficult is that we are searching for a comprehensive look. We're looking, student debt crisis. Robert Applebaum just wrote a petition asking for this sort of comprehensive reform, and that's basically just, I think, a cry from a lot of people that says, listen, I know there are these small victories, people are talking about interest rates and things like that, but we're really in sort of a dire situation where we need action. And as you mentioned, it's difficult to get action in Washington, and for any issue, particularly this one. So that's where, again, I think, like you mentioned before, people then have to raise their voices. If they're not listening to us there, we have to just get as loud as we can. And I really believe that if we get as loud as we can and continue this awareness building phase, which is always tough, because trust me, I feel it every month. I owe $1,500 a month in student debt, my wife and I combined. I mean, we owe a lot of money, and it's every month is a difficult thing. And I know it is for a lot of people,
And I hear that. I think you're so right. And I think what we need is, because I think what we continue to see from Washington is this whole ideal of a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, which really is not doing much. And I think at this point in time, we're at the trillion. I think we're at 1.2 trillion. I think by next year that will compound to probably at 1.8 trillion. Before you know, we'll be at $2 trillion. The number will continue to get bigger. And we just keep putting a Band-Aid over, but we're going to keep the Stafford rates low. And I really feel as though it's going to require, and we can't just blame the president, or we can't blame the right, or can't blame the left. It's going to require that we amass our voices, right, and say, hey, listen, we are demanding this, and if we don't get it, then there's going to be electoral ramifications for it.
Yeah, that's I think a position that a lot of us have taken as well, is that, listen, we are the ones electing leaders who are then going, and then when we're asking them to listen to us, they're not listening to us. And if it's tough to care, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I know I care, you care, a lot of people care, but at the same time, in Montreal, they raised the tuition 2%, a very small percent, and 300,000 students protested peacefully in the streets. And as much as I love being an American, we don't see that mass sort of response. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think generally, I think we're a large country. I think that's difficult to streamline sort of a cohesive movement around that. At the same time, I also think that there's two things happening. There are students who are coming into school, and they're really not thinking about the long-term issues of debt. I mean, I think they're doing what I would have done, which is, hey, my parents, my counselors, my leaders, everybody in my community said you should try to go to school just because it's going to help your life and you're going to be able to move up socioeconomically. But then what happens is afterwards, when people have this type of debt and compound that debt with your credit cards or with your car insurance or health insurance, we are really, we have so much debt in this country living your life. So I think what happens is when you have a society of young workers, of millennials, of people who are put into debt, whether it be through student debt or health care, that what it does is it stops people from having the time and space to be civically active. Because if you're between 2 or 3 jobs, yeah, you can jump on and sign a petition, but when do we have the time and the space that maybe folks in Montreal who have certain tenants like healthcare and things like that that are essentially subsidized, or they look at it differently? I believe that that's why you get responses in countries like that as opposed to ours, because I think we're just working our butts off all the time.
I think you're right on that one. Now give us the website, because we gotta go to break. We gotta pay some bills here, Aaron. But give us the website where people can go and put their videos up.
StudentDebtCrisis.org, and then you just click a button, and it's really easy. You did it. All you have to do is click a button, upload your story, 1 to 2 minutes, and you're good to go. And include the hashtag #OutWithStudentDebt.
Aaron Calafato from the Student Debt Crisis. Thank you so much for being on the Fowler Show. We'll be right back after this break. Don't go anywhere.